Hello, this is Dr. Stanley Lang. Welcome to this broadcast, and the topic is on gluten or glyphosate, or is it both? And the reason I'm sharing this with you today is because I saw a patient that was complaining of these symptoms: brain fog and fatigue. And we got into a discussion about the possible causes. And actually, this presentation was 2 years ago. And at that time, we ruled out some of the biochemical diseases or diseases that affect the body's biochemistry that could cause brain fog and fatigue. And there were none, fortunately. So I suggested to her that the issue was gluten and that she cut out gluten. And she did cut it out. And 90+% of her symptoms went away fairly quickly. And then I didn't see her for quite a while. And on return visit today, the patient is having really minimal symptoms, but starting to notice that some of the brain fog is coming back. And the more we talked about the possible causes of this, it became clear that there was sort of more gluten creeping into the diet. And this is largely very common in patients who have families that they're trying to feed who don't want to give up their gluten-containing foods. So it's hard for those folks to put the gluten aside, so to speak. So what is gluten? It's a protein that's present in wheat, barley, and rye. Well, people don't eat too much barley or rye, but we do eat a lot of wheat products. The wheat products that we mainly eat are bread, pasta, crackers, cereal, pretzels. And that covers a lot of territory when you're talking about the American diet. But to try to give a little bit more emphasis to the why it was critical to cut out gluten, I started to talk about glyphosate today. And the glyphosate issue is something that a lot of people are unfamiliar with. I've spoken with several people over the last year, and they just have never heard of this chemical. So I wanted to give this patient additional reasons to cut out the gluten, because glyphosate is a very bad chemical. And I believe that it's one of the main reasons why we're seeing so much gluten sensitivity. So glyphosate is an herbicide. It's dumped on a lot of the food that we eat, and it damages our bowel in at least 3 different ways. First of all, it is a potent killer of our good bacteria. Second of all, it damages the communication between the bacteria that happens normally in the gut and the communication between our bacteria and our gut. So that damages the gut's communication with the brain. And third of all, it damages the lining of the bowel so that the cells don't function, the cells adjacent to each other don't function correctly, and they become a bit leaky, and sometimes very leaky, letting stuff into our bodies that was never designed to get into our bodies. So after we talked about how these things happen and how they are part of why gluten is becoming such a major issue in terms of sensitivity, the patient had bigger reasons to consider making some significant permanent dietary changes. So we spent the rest of the time talking about how you can limit glyphosate. So glyphosate is present in all of the GMO foods, which includes most of the corn, most of the soy, but unfortunately it's also spread on a lot of the wheat at the end of the growing season. And unfortunately, we don't have glyphosate-free wheat and gluten-free wheat in 2 different piles. It's kind of all mixed together before the food is made. That bread, crackers, cereal, pretzels, and pasta list that we talked about. And so all of the major producers of these things are using wheat that's partly contaminated with this glyphosate. So because so many different diseases are tied to how the bowel is functioning, how leaky is the bowel, and how it affects the immune system, so many different diverse conditions, including Lyme disease, autism, Alzheimer's disease. All of these things are affected by how well the bowel is doing, and many others that I won't list. So it's really important for you, if your goal is to have the best of health, to limit glyphosate and gluten. Now, for people that really don't have a gluten sensitivity, it's possible to get flour that is glyphosate free and cook your own food, make your own food from the flour rather than buy store-bought foods. But unfortunately, about 67% of people in the United States now have antibodies to gluten. So the odds are you actually have antibodies to which your body, so that means your body is attacking the gluten where it finds it when it's in your body, whether or not you're getting sick from that attack. A lot of times the body's immune system is engaged in ways that we're not really feeling. So one of the most important things that you can do then to improve your health is to limit glyphosate. So I do have a free report that I'd like to give you. If you want that information, you can click on the link below this video, beside the video, or on the video. At the time that you're viewing the video, the report may not be there yet. So if it isn't there, I recommend that you bookmark the video and come back and check in another day or two. It should be there. This will give you a lot more information on not only how to avoid the glyphosate, or at least limit glyphosate, because you can't avoid it completely because of what you'll learn in the report, but how you can mitigate the damage. And there's lots of things that you can do to mitigate the damage that I'd like to tell you about in that report. So if you've got brain fog, if you've got fatigue, the chances are good that glyphosate is playing a role, and maybe the gluten as well. Now, the context for all of this and all of the things I share is the model of whole person health, which means health of body, mind, and spirit. I believe that all of us can bring resources from all three of these areas of us to our goals of being well and recovering from disease. And so I encourage you to approach wellness in a whole person health approach. You've got resources that are physical, emotional, and spiritual that you can work on. And they all overlap. They tend to affect each other. So in this case, this person's brain fog was caused by something physical. So an emotional experience was caused by a physical phenomenon. And I can guarantee you that people that are pursuing a spiritual life, but they feel tired and brain foggy, they have trouble concentrating on whatever the spiritual goals that they have. So everything is kind of interlinked. And so that's why you want to work on all three areas at the same time if your goal is the best of health, which I wish for you to have. God bless and have a great day.